It is summer in the Northern Hemisphere. That means time for a little more leisure time, a little more hanging out, and a little more art gallery visiting. Today we're going to discuss what exhibitions people are excited about and what they are planning next in their art calendar. Artist Journal, July 12th, 2023, broadcasting live from Berlin and New York City via Rug Radio on Twitter Spaces. My name is Adrian Pocabelli, and we welcome back co-host, artist, and conversationalist to the show, Runtune. How is your week going?
Hey there. It's been a good week. Had a nice amount of time to create some art, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, curious to see what galleries and which shows everyone's going to be talking about today.
Well, so am I, and I guess, well, first of all, I think it's wonderful that you're able to create some art this week. That always makes it a good week in my books, no matter how, you know, no matter how tough a week might be. If you make some art, it redeems it, shall we say? And I'm pretty excited too, actually, to hear what people are checking out. I mean, I've hardly had time to check out anything. I was looking online here beforehand just to see what is going on in the city, other than the odd gallery show that a friend is doing, putting on and that sort of thing. But I haven't actually, I guess I went to a museum in Munich, but that was probably the last time I actually, went to a big exhibition. How about yourself? Have you been? I mean, New York. There must be a million things. Are you able? Are you able to get out? Have you seen anything?
Yeah, I'm able to get out, not as frequently as I'd like. I mean, I'm sure New York is just like Berlin, where at any given moment there's a show that you've been meaning to go see or you want to see. I feel like there's always a show that's what usually gets me into a gallery or a space though is when I see that it's a show's almost on its way out and I'm like, okay, I gotta finally do this. And I've missed a couple shows, but um, oh, and I had the most bizarre experience at the photography center in the Lower East Side. I was there with a friend last week, and it was pouring rain, and we get there and we're totally soaked, and we're like, are they even going to let us in here? Because we were quite literally drenched. Um, we go up to the front. It's these two younger girls are working the door. They're like, oh yeah, feel free to go in. So we pay for our tickets in there, and then about 20 minutes into the exhibition, and I'm seeing all this fantastic photography by photographers I've never heard of, by the greats like Nan Golden, um, and the alarms start going off, and then people are like exiting the building or exiting the gallery, and we're like, you know what? I don't see any, like, unless someone's gonna tell us to get out of here, we're just gonna like hang out and check out these photos. So that's what we did. I just had my like hands over my ears to like keep me from being bothered by the alarm. And then eventually someone's like, okay, yeah, we all have to evacuate. And we're all going down these stairs and people are like, so what's going on? What exactly is happening? And they wouldn't tell us what was happening. They're like, just they were just like so vague about it. And we're all in the lobby like wondering like, well, what the heck is going on? Like you're making us kind of freaked out. And they wouldn't tell us. And then someone's like, well, are we allowed to leave? He's like, you can leave if you want to. And so we left. I was like, I don't know what's going, like, in my head there was like an active shooter somewhere in the gallery.
That's exactly what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like when people don't tell you, it just makes it like 100
Oh,
times worse
exactly. You
because
just
then you
start thinking of the worst things possible.
exactly,
So
exactly.
that being said, I have to go back there and have a normal gallery experience. Um,
Did you ever find out what the issue was?
no, I never found out, but there was nothing terrible in the news, so I'm assuming it was just something related to the weather or a faulty alarm.
Yeah. How is the weather in New York? I imagine it's pretty hot. I mean,
Oh,
here we've started to get,
it's hot.
yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Like you're hearing, I don't know if you saw those news stories that it's like the hottest days of the
Oh,
like in
yeah.
the Earth history. Or have you seen
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Like the last 3 days have been the hottest on record, and the average. I think they said that the average world temperature was 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Gosh, and what is? I almost spilled my water here. What is that
Yeah,
in
that's
Celsius here? It's such a funny thing. My mom goes to Phoenix in the winters, and so she starts using Fahrenheit now.
so it's
It sounds hot
18,
though. I mean, here,
18 and a
sorry.
third degrees Celsius.
Wow, and that includes like the Arctic, the
Yeah,
Antarctica, and everything. Wow, it's kind of
it is
scary. I
scary
mean, we
for
hear all these our entire lives. We've heard of these stories of how there's global warming, and well, I mean, look, I mean, there's still, I guess it's like the hottest since like 1941 or something. I thought, but I guess it's the hottest ever. So all to say, when things go from abstraction to reality, it is a little
sure.
bit jarring, shall we say. So, welcome everybody. The room's starting to fill up here, and it is basically an open line session. So, it's your chance to come out and actually just say a few words if you're a little shy, and or if you're not, say a lot of words. And we're totally open here as far as you know. I'm kind of curious just to hear what people are excited about and what is going on in other cities out here, and also, if you're working on series or you're going to put on a show, feel free to mention that as well. Just put a request to speak, and I may prank some of you, including Dr. Version, who always has such an interesting perspective on everything and is always checking out something cool. So I will also send out some prank invites to come on stage as well. So Runtun, you went to the photography show. Now I don't know if I quite caught what was in the photography show. Like, were you excited about what you saw? I have to confess, I'm not a huge photography guy. It's never my idea to go to a photography exhibition. Generally speaking, maybe once in a while, but it's pretty rare. Were you excited by what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of I was kind of distracted for a lot of it, but I was seeing a lot of really cool stuff by photographers both familiar and unfamiliar. Granted, I was only really in there for like 15 minutes before things got weird. Um, but I liked what I saw, and I think there was two whole floors um, that I didn't get to check out. But one of my favorite shows that I've seen this summer was when I was in Miami a couple weeks ago. There's this Leandro Ehrlich exhibit. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Maybe some people in the audience are familiar. He's from Argentina, I believe, but he's been in all those like Venice Biennials and stuff like that. Mostly, I think installation based work with some stuff like prints and stuff that he's done as well. But really fun work, like very there's like a sense of humor to a lot of it. Um, and a lot of what he does is takes something super familiar and kind of plays with your head about the this familiar thing. So he'll take things like an elevator or a a barber shop or um, your apartment door, and he'll do something kind of interesting with it. So, for instance, there was one part of the exhibition that was, I think it was called, um, it was something like neighbor across the hall or something like that, or next door neighbor or something to that effect. And essentially, what it was is there was this little wall that would pop out, and you could see on both sides of the wall, and on either side of the wall was a matching brown wooden door with the little like looking glass through the little like spy hole through the center. And when you would look through the little spy hole to see what's out there, you'd see that same door across what looked like an expansive hallway, but it was really just like a thin wall. So he'll do things like that, and it's just it's one of those things that just kind of makes you laugh.
Just kind of messes with your head a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like, yeah. I love that. And what was I just thinking about recently? And welcome to ER Dice and Dr. Version to the stage. Oh, this is what I was going to say. And I mean, kind of just as far as messing with the head, I do like that, in terms of when you make a piece, I like confusing the viewer if possible. Like, I remember, like, for example, I remember I would print. I would paint white on colored paper, and then I'd print over top of it, say the picture of like, let's say a Raphael painting, and then I'd use marker, and so that would cover most of the orange paper, and there'd be white bleeding through. And where the margin was, I would color it white, for example. And if you follow me, and so it looked like a white piece of paper, even though it was a colored piece of paper. So it's kind of confusing, all to say. And I came across another one of those examples today. I was playing with these kind of, again, AI remixes, really, of previous works. And what was funny is they have all these masks over top. And I was like, well, I'd almost like to have this where I have the original work underneath and I could screen print the mask over top. So I brought it in Photoshop Beta with the generative fill, and sure enough, it started filling in beautifully the parts of the painting that were missing. And I just thought, how strange would that be if I then, I don't know if you guys are following me, but if I printed that out and then screen printed the mask over top, that would just be like the most messed up thing ever. So anyways, all to say, I'm a huge fan of kind of confusing, because there's an aesthetic appreciation, I think, that comes with kind of the riddle of not knowing how it was made and how did they do this. And there's kind of something just a little bit extra special when that
Yeah,
happens. Do you get that
I
sense?
think I think that's always, especially it especially appeals, I think, to artists who are looking at artwork. I know that anytime that I see something and I kind of get lost on the trail of how it was made, it makes me pay attention to it a lot more. I mean, that's essentially why I found Artmater, and it
Mm.
was that Matthew Stone exhibition, and I could not figure out how a certain piece of artwork was made, and I had to ask someone at the gallery, and they pointed me to Artmater.
A fateful day for both of
Yeah.
us, then, that question that you dared ask. Uh, Eurydice, Erdice, how do I pronounce your name, Erdice? Where are you calling from? I'm not sure. Have you been on stage before? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Pokebelly, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually tuning in from Boston. It's like 9:30 in the morning here, but I was pretty excited to join. And yeah, hello.
Hello,
Yeah,
welcome.
I go by Akira Dice for most of most of the time.
Eurydice. Eurydice?
Yeah, just
Perfect.
using ER Dice right now because I just got married and have a new middle name, so it's technically Elias Rodriguez Dice. But yeah, you can just say ER Dice. That's cool.
Well, congratulations.
um,
That's pretty exciting. You just got married.
Thank you. Yeah, it was on July 2nd.
Wow, big
Yeah,
congratulations! And
thank you so much.
was it a outdoor wedding, indoor? Give us a little bit of details here.
Yeah, it was indoor at an event space in Somerville, Massachusetts, and it was pretty great. We just, we're both trans identified, so we were trying to do something that was, a little less traditional, trying to figure it out ourselves, and came up with kind of a lot of gags that we wound up. We had our friend open up with a Princess Bride joke, marriage is what brings us together.
Oh man,
But
that sounds
it was
hilarious.
it was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I wanted to actually I recently sold one of the most expensive pieces I had listed. It was a 1-1 of a ceramic piece that my husband made. He's a master ceramicist, and he went to school for it at Massachusetts Fine Arts as well as the University of Delaware. And so the buyer didn't have a Twitter associated with their account. And I thought, oh, who is this? Well, it turns out they found my email, got in touch with me, and said, because I said whoever buys this NFT will receive the actual vase. So they emailed me and said, like, hey, I bought this vase from you. And I thought, oh my God, like, fantastic. They're actually going to get it. It wasn't just some random bot that got the NFT.
Wow,
Um,
that's so cool.
so yeah, thank you. And I've built a website, for my husband to sell his ceramics, and it's something that I help him do when I'm not doing my job, and he has markets and stuff like that. And kind of like you were saying about how, people get lost in not knowing the process of things. We have ceramics, which is the oldest art of all time, right? Ever since humans needed to carry water and food, and yet
Totally.
people are constantly coming up to our tables, asking questions like, did you make these? Or how do you make this? And it's quite fascinating, like you say, to be, in 2023, yet we are so used to acquiring like all of our cups and plates and, necessities from places like IKEA that we've lost touch with, like such an old art. But that being said, currently in Boston, one of the most exciting exhibits that we have at the Institute of Contemporary Art is Simone Leigh, who is one of the most important and largest Black feminist ceramicists in the world. And they have uh, her first her first viewings from a Venice collection on display. And I mean, these pieces of ceramic and bronze are humongous. So if you get a chance to look up Simone Leigh, that show is phenomenal. We just recently had Hokusai at the Museum of Fine Arts, which was
Oh,
awesome.
nice. That's
Um,
awesome. I'm looking
they,
up Simone
yeah,
Leigh right now, and yeah, pretty interesting.
yeah,
Almost like
um,
traditional, sort of like, for lack of a better term, African type sculpture look and feel to it.
yes,
Does that?
yeah,
Yeah, really cool. Um, so interesting. And you're just saying Hokusai. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
such a huge fan, actually. I mean, really, and like a huge influence on Van Gogh, I think, interestingly, if I remember correctly. I mean, those Japanese prints were huge.
hmm,
And it seems like it's almost like, you know, like it's almost like graphic design a little bit. It was like almost like printmaking, this sort of thing. And then it inspires someone like Van Gogh, and then you just almost have to reassess everything, because probably those bright colors and even the compositions probably had a huge impact on one of the great, quote unquote, high artists or fine artists in history.
absolutely. And I can see how too. I mean, when seeing them in person, it's just some of the greatest art I have ever seen. And it was kind of funny because it's always like the most famous paintings, I guess, always wind up being a lot smaller than I expect them to be. The Great Wave was only about, like 8 by 11, but they had this humongous Lego version of the painting behind it that was almost even more exciting than the painting itself. They made this like sort of like 6 by 6 foot 3D Lego model of it. That if you get to see a picture of that as well, it was radical. And the last thing that I wanted to mention that the Museum of Fine Arts did here, up until March 14th of 2023, they were trying to sell NFTs in partnership with La Collection.
Hmm.
Um, and so they were selling NFTs by, artists like Monet and Degas and Millet. Um, However, it didn't seem to be as popular as they thought it was going to be, I think, because they kept trying to sort of shill, but their audience and their members are kind of an older audience. So you could tell they were really trying to get people in emails to understand the notion of making a wallet and buying, official NFTs of this real art, right? Which I did grab a couple myself because they were under $100, and I thought, well, I would love to own, a Degas.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it didn't seem to catch on. You can still, find information about them, but it's supposed to give you a bunch of benefits in the future at the museum. So I thought that was kind of a cool notion, for some museums that are trying to stay relevant and dip their toes into the digital space. I was wondering if you've seen that too.
Well, I mean, a lot of thoughts are crossing my mind here. Like, here's a museum that's copy minting. Like, I mean, I guess they put utility on it, I guess, right? But I was
Very
just
true.
thinking, like, I mean, imagine if we did that, or if I had a work that I owned of someone else's, and then I started releasing an NFT. Now, maybe they had other details on that and said, "Hey, this is part of the museum collection, and as such, you will have access to the coffee shop 10% off or whatever the utility of the day
You
is.
have to
But
wonder what kind of conversations were happening with the museum to make them do that, you know?
it's probably been years in the works. Like it
Yeah.
was probably back in 2021 where it's like, okay, we have to do NFTs
Yeah.
or we're going to be left behind. And they finally roll it out, like in early 2023, let's say. And then it's sort of like, and then they don't even really, it's almost, it sounds, looks, feels, and sounds a little bit like institutional thinking, a little bit, but hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
what did you think, Eurydice? I mean, are you happy with your product? Are you happy with the purchase?
I am, and I kind of wanted. I am someone who definitely gets delighted by experimentation and experimental thought, and I was cracking up at the fact that you were saying copy minting, because now that you say that, I think that that is basically what they're doing. They're not getting the permission of Claude Monet to
Like,
mint his work.
We'd be
Um,
I'd be run out of town if I did something like that. Like, I mean, all of us would
it's
be. Yeah.
exactly. And even I've even some artists that I love, like say Kyle Flemmer, for example, does some analog glitch clips of like from the Pokemon show, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I love that, but gee, if I bought it, like, could I get sued? And it's something I didn't think about when I got this art. But like you said, if the utility wasn't behind it, I wouldn't have been interested. I was just
Mhm.
curious. I was mainly curious with like, oh, what is this? What is this going to do? Right? Because it's not like I am going to like humble brag when people come over, like, oh yes, I own a Degas. Like it's almost a little more kind of ironic and funny to me. um, but
There's
also
my
then
Degas. Yeah.
you're right.
Sorry.
It's like I'm also kind of laughing at the fact that it was kind of a flop for them, because whereas I thought it was kind of a cool idea and like, oh my God, well, if only 100 copies of this real painting are going to exist, then that makes these 100 copies, right? Just like the next most valuable in line. And I was like, well, where is this going to go though? Right. So I'm curious. They have yet to do more with it, but we'll see.
Well, pretty fascinating. Keep us updated on that, Eurydice, and feel free to stay on stage here. And thank you for contributing. And let's get back to you later on in the conversation. Let's bring Dr. Version on stage here. Dr. Version, how are you doing? I assume you're in Florida right now.
I am in Florida, back in Florida. It's hot here. I have been mostly offline, so it's great to see you, Pokebelly and Runetoon. I was traveling for 3 weeks in Europe, which was fantastic. Had such a good time, and it makes me envious of European life.
Where all
I
did you go?
don't like driving a car, and I miss the city. I miss New York because I moved there last August. But yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Well, yeah. Tell us about your trip. I think Runtune was asking too. And whatever. I think I saw you at the Pompidou, and you were
Yes.
taking pictures of CryptoPunk. So, and I agree with you. Like having lived in 3 North American cities before moving to Europe, like I'll never go back. Like I mean, North American cities are pretty harsh in retrospect. Like it's not easy. Uh,
Yeah, and
Car
New
culture.
York's not an easy town, obviously, but it has, just the
Well, it's
walkability, the scale of a city for a human.
Yeah, New
Not for,
York is a special case for sure, and worth the harshness of But yeah, I mean, compared to Toronto, was like, my God, I just you have to buy a car. I literally bought a car so I could get to work, and then my work ended up paying was so that I could pay for my car. And like I had like this really weird situation where I was basically working to pay for my car, and it was just like this is ridiculous. So
yeah.
anyway, I'm one of my happiest days of my life was actually selling my car before I moved out here. But anyways, tell us about your trip and what were your more reflections on your trip to Europe?
Yeah, so it was with my wife and my 5-year-old daughter, so it's not necessarily a vacation, even though she's a trooper and really great traveler. We take her around to art museum, and she was into drawing, and she was really taking it all in. So I feel really lucky that we got to go. And specifically at the Pompidou, there was an installation by some artists. I have the little flyer right here that I grabbed. I don't know if I can say their names right, but Yvonne Cladat and Coco Petita Perry. I'm murdering that, but they're sculptors, performers, choreographers. And when you walk into the Pompidou, it's up on the second floor, and literally we spent 2 hours there. It's like this foam neoprene sculpture that the kids can interact with. There's all these different pieces they can build stuff with, and nothing specific. It's all about using their imagination. And my daughter loved it. I loved it too. The colors were incredible. So it was like this immersive playground for kids, but also adults in some way because it was beautiful.
Were you able to drop off your kid in a sense so that you kind of go on your own? Like, because I imagine
No,
it's quite a challenge going to museums with like younger children at times. Hey,
yeah, my wife would go out because I wanted to spend some time there, so it was great, and she would take her to a playground down the street or whatever. Paris is excellent for that, and we're in Madrid too. The
I love
playgrounds
Madrid.
everywhere.
I
Yeah,
adore Madrid. How did you like it?
loved it. It was
Uh,
probably one of my favorites for, I don't know, comfortability. It's coming from the US, it's cheaper,
yeah,
definitely. My wife went to school there for 2 years, so she has a lot of friends. So we had a network. We stayed in a
nice.
really, uh, Airbnb. I don't know what the neighborhood is offhand, but close to the center, and could just wander around. That's one of my favorite things to do. I am not lining up to do anything touristy. I just want to get into how people live in certain cities, go to the grocery store, go to the local cafe. But then Madrid has, went to the Thyssen and saw incredible Roberto Mata.
Oh, there you
Your
Um,
go. You
hero.
found your manas.
yes, and also in the Pompidou I saw one. So
Nice.
two check marks.
Yes.
Um, in Madrid, there was something that really stuck with me that I saw. I had the day to myself, so I spent some time at the Prado. And in the Goya room, which is, I guess, it's all of his black paintings,
Hmm.
which is pretty intense in itself. There was a man who was on pretty much a bed painting this painting, the Saturn devouring his son, with his mouth and doing a pretty incredible job. Obviously, he had an assistant there, but it just it was really moving. I mean, it was really like
Wow.
hopeful and inspiring, and like he was doing a really good job. And it's like, this is really how art can save someone. And I mean, I can relate sometimes too, like lowest parts of your life. Well, I still have this, and it still keeps me sane.
It's so true, and it's almost like, and nobody can take it away from me. Even this
Yes.
guy who is probably paralyzed, uh,
Yeah,
you know, for the most part, and you know, you can't take this away from me. That's a
yep,
beautiful story. I mean,
yeah. I was, seeing all the art, and and all these museums are, I like to say, very crowded. The Louvre was out of control.
I
Like, I
was
don't
going
even
to
know if I
ask
want to go
about
back.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So what about that? Like, it's like it was too crowded from the sounds of it.
It's hard to enjoy. It's definitely not my thing either. So you don't, like, come on, the Mona Lisa. It's almost a joke. I think. How can you enjoy that painting? And how can, like, it just,
It's such a
yeah, it's not
spectacle,
my thing.
the Mona Lisa.
Yes, it is. I think what was enjoyable to me was seeing what a spectacle this painting is. Like, that is the art in it.
Yeah.
Seeing people wait in line to take their selfie in front of it.
Oh, and then it's like people taking their selfie with it. Like, I
Yep.
guess that's what you got. I guess check mark. I guess we saw it. We did. We did it. We did it.
Yep.
Uh,
That's why
that is.
it
Other
is
than
hard to enjoy those massive museums for that reason. Like I rarely make it to some of the larger institutions in New York simply because of the crowds. I mean, you and I went to the MoMA together. That was really crowded. Really crowded. And that was
yes,
like a
I
Monday.
agree.
It was a Monday.
Yeah.
Packed.
And I know we spoke about this, a preferable way of enjoying a museum. I don't know if you want to disclose, but um, you can be a little, if you're taking anything psychedelic, it can be a little claustrophobic.
A
Or
little
Yeah.
overwhelming.
yeah,
Not
it's
to
the
take away from the
people, and it's
family
not about the
friendly,
art.
but yeah, that's definitely something I enjoy doing in New York City.
Yeah,
I
if
have to.
you're
Go,
if you're
go ahead.
ever in Milwaukee, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Art Museum is whenever I go back, I'm surprised how empty it is.
Really?
So that's a good safe zone to do something like that.
Yeah, I've
I
never.
was about to say Munich as well. Munich is one of the deadest museums
Really?
I've ever seen. Their old, art gallery museum. I went in, late May, but again, that's probably when you were in France. And there's literally like three Raphaels on one wall and a Leonardo on another wall, and I had it all like there's like two people in the room.
That's a beautiful thing.
You know,
Wow.
yeah, so that was fantastic because to your point, I mean, it's too much. Like I don't really, yeah. I'll go to the Louvre when it's like if there's another pandemic, or
Well,
like once,
it's similar to
yeah.
like the music venues. Like I tell all my friends, I don't care who the
Mm,
artist is. You're never gonna see me at Madison Square Garden. Like I just won't do it.
It doesn't
absolutely.
sound doesn't sound good
Eurydice,
at Madison Square Garden either, I gotta say.
Eurydice, feel free to weigh in here at any moment, and that goes for anybody who would like to join the conversation here. And Kant is also about to join the stage here. Kant, welcome from Delhi, who is connecting right now. Kant, how are you doing?
Hey, hello everyone. Okobali Buntu.
Welcome right
Welcome.
to the stage. The spotlight is on you, Kant. How are things going?
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think
Well,
this is,
well,
yeah.
I was just going to say thank you for all the support you've given these spaces and also the YouTube show and even the art. I just want to publicly thank you because every little act makes a difference here, and it's not unnoticed from my side. So I just want to thank you for that.
Wow, amazing. First of all, your work is really good. I mean, as an artist, and also what you're doing for the community is really amazing. So I mean, the all the videos are really wonderful, very informative. So I want to keep the archive on my own wall on the Twitter. So it helps me to do that. Also, this way the people are able to see those archives as well. I mean, it's just I'm not doing anything special.
Well, it's appreciated anyway. So, how's your art going? And are you going to any shows? How's Delhi for art? I mean, is there a big art museum over there? Tell us a little bit. Are you getting out much?
In Delhi, yeah, I think this is a season where the art season is starting. People are starting to make the shows, physical shows mainly, and we have the museum as well. Recently, one of the wonderful museum which is called KNMA, Kiranata Museum of Art. They have wonderful opening. Since it's a museum, and they invited a curator, who curated young artists actually. So this is really wonderful exhibition where the young artists are being curated in the museum, and they are kind of giving their premises to the young artists.
Interesting. And I wonder, like, do they have the equivalent of these kind of big museums you see in Europe? I mean, the reason I ask is because the history of art definitely does have a Western bias to it. For whatever reason, just maybe part of the reason is because these traditions came out of places like the Netherlands and Italy and all that sort of thing. So, what are there basically really rich people in Delhi or India that acquire like works, from the canon and bring them into museums there, or are there not that many museums like of that kind, and maybe it's just more, from the Indian tradition? Help color that in for us a little bit.
I think the private museum, I should use the word, they are quite rare, but some people are actually investing into the art, supporting them like anything. Again, I'm bringing the name of Kiranata Museum of Art, which is called, I mean, KNMA. It's very famous. There is
Okay,
also another museum which is called Devi Art Foundation.
Okay, and what do they have there? Like, is it like a typical European art museum, or I imagine it's different, right? So you'd probably have more, Indian art from. I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Oh yeah. This is, yeah. So most of the time they curate the art. They have a huge collection, but the the museum is used to showcase their collections, and it's theme based, like the subject based. So they regularly invite different curators. They bring their own touch, and they curate those certain section of collection. So they have different variety, very diverse collection they have in KNA, from the Western artists to, if they could acquire some of the work, or they also kind of borrow from other museums also the work from the West.
Right. And there's probably these traveling shows that are really global these days, right? I mean, so you probably get shows that come from London or New York that literally travel the globe sometimes. Like I remember Tutankhamun, I think that traveled around the world like for a few years.
Yeah, so I think now the people are in India starting to invest into the art, and if the collection they have, it's huge, because there is no other way to keep it intact and alive. Otherwise, it will disappear from the memory of the people. So there is the only way. If the collection is huge, they must turn it into the museums, virtual or digital or the physical. There is no other options. So I think more museums are going to come up. But right now, what I can remember, private museum are two, which I remember. Devi Art Foundation, one of the museum which has the contemporary artists only. And the KNMA, it has all kind of artists.
Fascinating. And as far as the contemporary art scene, like, do you go to, like, I mean, here in Berlin, we're kind of spoiled. We have it's Wednesday. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton going on tonight, and tomorrow will be even crazier. And that's like a weekly thing out here, but it's not typical. Like in Toronto, there'd be a few shows here and there. How's Delhi as far as just, contemporary art galleries? Is there a scene where you can go out and, meet other artists in person?
Oh, I think about this, Delhi is really rich because we have many galleries here, especially contemporary art galleries, which are private galleries. And we regular have shows. Mostly the winter is the time of having the kind of art season where we have the India Art Fair as well. So like the contemporary art from around the world comes here. And also many galleries are making the shows. So yeah, I mean, people, they want to go to shows, they can also meet new people, they can meet new artists, they can enjoy the wonderful art. Yeah, definitely, about art, contemporary art, Delhi is very rich.
Well, it sounds pretty exciting. So, are you looking forward to any big exhibitions coming up this summer, or do you have any plans to travel, or what are you looking forward to from an art perspective this summer?
Oh, amazing. I think this is the right time. I should bring that collection I was talking about. So one of the friend is actually making working on a curatorial project, which is called When Art Has a Voice. This friend happens to be from the South Africa. So this is a show which is the curated NFTs are there. So he wrote a poem, When Art Has a Voice, and invited people to respond to this poem. So artists started to submit their artwork, and now there are 60 artworks from the different people around the world, and they are JPEG, they are GIF, they are also the animation as well. So it's being curated. The curator's name is Blue to Black. I invited him, but I think he's late. So I think I should present the project.
Well, feel free to post a link here, or tell people how they can learn more about that show. That would be great.
Okay,
I'm curious, Kant. I wonder if, because the area that you say that you are from and live in, it must not have these large institutions, right? Because, it's an area that was really colonized back in the day. So, if we're talking about anything other than contemporary art in your area, like, it most likely has been acquired, or stolen, if you will, by, colonizers and taken to Europe. So I'm just wondering if that's kind of the context behind, having shows that come to you, as well as, maybe that's stimulating the future of art in your area to say, like, recreate like a new wave or a new future of art. What do you think about that?
Amazing. I think this is really amazing to bring this conversation. Yes, people actually are very aware about these things in the art fraternity, and they started working on this already, I think, 20 or 30 years back. So in India, they have their own tradition, like the way we see the contemporary art from here and the West, it's very different. Both looks like both are the contemporary art, but we have different signature from India. It's completely comes from its heritage. So I think this discussions are around, but people actually have this knowledge. They started working 20 or 30 years back, writing things. It brought a lot of knowledge and awareness about the people up in people's mind, like the young mind. These young mind happens to be now in 40s or 50s. So yes, this awareness is there. People understand the differences also, and they're very much comfortable about talking about these things as well.
Well, it's pretty interesting history here. And speaking of an interesting history, I mean, I see Chi Moscow Jackson out in the crowd there. I've sent you an invite to speak. If you are available, I would love to hear about the Kurt Hustle Collective solo show. I got a message. I'll join in a second. So awesome. Because, I mean, to me, that's a real art world scoop. Is actually, I assume it's probably the Kurt Hustle Collective's first show on and here's Chi Moscow Jackson. He joins us on stage. Chi, I'm so glad you've arrived. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, man, things are going good. I'm just pulled up to work, so I don't have too long, but I've been lurking in the background listening to your great conversation here.
Well, lurk away. I'm a bit of a lurker myself, so perhaps I can relate somewhat. So tell us about this show here. I assume it's still on. If I were you, I'd probably just leave it on for like at least a month, but I'm sure you guys have your own plans. Tell us about the show. How are things going with the gallery over in downtown Seattle?
Yeah, the show was awesome. It was really good to like see people's response to KHC. People were really blown away by it, and I think it was definitely something that was different on the art walk, and people really it resonated with a lot of people, especially using like the retro tech. It was like something that people hadn't seen, and there was a lot of nostalgia for that kind of setup. It took I want to say it took about 2 months to kind of pull everything together. I had a lot of, chats with J&K and Visual Terry, just trying to like hone in what a show could look like. And at the end, it really, really turned out. So it was really dope.
Well, the pictures were awesome. It looked like you recreated the cyber slums there with a pretty impressive accuracy. And were you able to show? I mean, I'm still like, my favorite video art of all time is probably those early Kurt Hustle Collective commercials where they make music and everything. Were you able to show that stuff? Like I saw one of them was on a TV.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we'd be competing with the audio. So were people able to watch those commercials?
So they were. So the way that our gallery kind of sets up is like, so I'm always with the belief that I'm like, okay, I went to art school, I've seen the stuffy art shows. I'm not really about those kind of shows. And so there was audio, but it was kind of lower, and we ended up playing like a 5-hour playlist from all songs from 1997 to go with the theme. So yeah, so there was some audio from the commercials, but it wasn't like, people would have to really kind of get close. And I referred people to the digital on cyber gallery, which we had going in the gallery. So we had basically the makeup of the show was we had 3 CRT TVs that were hooked up to DVD players. and I basically burned a DVD of each set of commercials. So there was like the NAP commercial, and then there was like uh, there was a three sets of commercials that are in different categories. So each category of commercials ended up on one of the three CRTs, and then we built that wooden kind of shack sculpture with, and it had another monitor in there that showed the location gallery NFT that they created, which basically cycles through a whole bunch of different Cybersum setups. And then we had two projections, one that was showing the postcard series that they have, which is J and K and Terry kind of going through the world, I guess, in their postcard series. And then there was a Debo, which they're calling DBO, which is a play on HBO. And that was on another projection. So they had really laid out a great idea for this. And then also, I think one of the best things for the show was they actually created stickers and a magazine that we were able to give out to the first, 50 or 60 people that came. And I think there ended up being about almost 450 people that came through to that show. So it was a really good turnout as well.
That sounds. Sorry, go ahead, Brenton.
What I love is just the use of all the old 90s televisions, VCRs, speaker systems.
Yeah.
Did you already have those on hand, or did you guys have to find those?
So I had one. I have one of those CRTs I use just on the regular, just because I'm a VHS nerd. So I just watch a ton of videos, and we leave videos running during our art shows. But the other two I did have to source, and that retro tech is becoming a collector's item. It's really expensive in Seattle. I do not know why. I think the Seattle Craigslist.
Like, you mean like the VCRs and stuff?
The actual tube TVs. They're called CRT TVs, and they're making a comeback for retro gaming. Apparently, with a new TV, they stretch the pixels with like new TVs, but the old TVs are a set ratio. And so.
And they're heavy as hell.
They are extremely heavy. You almost need a forklift to pick those things up. Yeah, I was able to source those, and then I had to source the DVD players. I didn't buy anything new, so I just used all older tech, and I just kind of used Craigslist and some other thrift markets and stuff like that to like get everything together, including the fog machine that we had kind of coming out of the barrel. There was like a barrel that was in the videos of the Cyberslums that J&K and Visual Terry created. And so we basically just kind of tried to like recreate that slime barrel and pushed a lot of smoke out of that thing. And yeah, it was a really great experience. Really spoke to the space, being able to like transport work without having to pay $1 million for shipping costs. And then also, have this kind of interaction with the international artists. And bring their creations to Seattle to a different audience that would normally never see anything like that. So it's just a really, really weird and awesome experience.
It sounds like it sounds like a total opportunity as far as from a gallery perspective, that all of a sudden you have a talent like Kurt Hustle Collective, and that you can have a solo show, but you're still like on the art walk. You're saying, so it's probably some special event, I'm assuming, where it's like everybody goes out on some weekend or some long weekend, right? And then they walk around to 20 different galleries.
Exactly,
right?
Same thing. And this was actually a really big one as well, because of the All-Star Games, which is a baseball thing. The baseball All-Star Games are in Seattle this year. So there was a lot of people out walking about. And there was also site-specific art installations for the baseball setup. So there was just a lot of people, a lot of art out. and it was like completely different because I basically built a structure which I put black plastic all around to black out the space because
I wasn't sure.
yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was like normally how the gallery was, because they almost look like garbage bags or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, it pretty much was. It was like poly
I loved
sheeting,
it.
basically just a black plastic tarp, and
It was perfect. Like, it had the slum feeling. I didn't want to comment on it because I was like, oh, well, maybe it's always like that and they're not trying to.
no, it was extra slummy for sure. And we just blacked that space out because I had the NFT show the month before, and all the projections got leached out with the color. So I realized that if I was going to be doing any kind of projections, any sort of vibe in there, I needed to do something about that. So I blacked the space out, and it really made a contrast from the other spaces out in the scene, because people, are expecting these bright spaces with white walls, and then they come into that space and it's just like dark, and the color contrast with the spotlighting, creating that kind of special effect. And it was a totally different vibe than anything we've ever done, or I've ever done anyway. And just a lot of fun. And it was good to work with those guys, because they're just really, really smart guys. They have a really good story. It really was interesting to work with an artist with all anonymity. I'm probably saying that wrong, because I don't know those guys, and I don't know what they look like. I just know them by their voices. And I've never worked with an artist like that before. And I think we had to have our first initial contact was just like me, like, you guys are serious about what you're doing, right? Like, this isn't just a joke. And they were extremely serious. Like, everything was very planned. They took everything really seriously. I think we were sending emails up to maybe 30 minutes before the show, confirming layouts and everything. So it was just like,
those guys.
Yeah, they're extreme hustlers for sure.
They're pro. They are pro.
Yeah, and I don't know how they create it. They create so much work. They're like machines. Like, they have such a work ethic that's amazing. And really, like I said, it speaks to the space, how that could happen, because like, I'm not doing any more digital shows other than our on Cyber Gallery for the rest of the year. And we just have all trad artists for the rest of the year. So just all paintings on the wall, nothing really like digital at all. And so I really wanted to like make this show stand out, to make it stand out that we are something different than other galleries.
Out of curiosity, is there a way that we can see that space, or was it documented in any way? Because I really, really wanted to go to that gallery, but I couldn't due to my wedding.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. We have video of the actual event and photos, and we are. I think the best way to do it, we're going to do a post on our Instagram. I think that could be the best way to do it. But I sent a bunch of information to J&K, and he's supposed to be making some kind of montage of the event. So I think that's probably going to be the best way to look at it. But as of right now, the show is actually coming down at the end of the week, and we're prepping for a new opening for Seattle Art Fair 2023, which is happening at the end of this month. So we have a new artist coming up for that.
That's so awesome. It's really cool to hear about how you set up the space too, because my husband and I are very interested in opening up an art center here in Boston, and I would love to integrate an ongoing NFT gallery space in it so that we can mix digital art with physical art. And it just so happens that KHC and his collective, they're like probably my favorite artist, as you can tell by my PFP and my banner. So yeah,
hilarious.
Thanks.
Hilarious.
I just absolutely love their art, and like you said, the anonymity, and the humor that they integrate with their collection. Like, and the mystery. I mean, I don't know, it just works for me. I think puppets are hilarious, so it's really cool to hear about how you set that all up. That gives me a lot of ideas for the future. So thanks so much.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I really resonate with their work as well, because I mean, it's just like there's all these like sub content, like subtle markers of what they're trying to do, and I actually tried to come up with my own words to describe their work, because um, their artist statement was their magazine that they created, which you can get, I think, on Object. I think it's like $3 or something like that, and it's like an edition of 50. But basically, they were saying that the Kurt Hustle collective is a toxic love letter to corporations and the TV industry and commercialism, so, and capitalism. So it was really like me. Uh, the way I described it to people is it was like a dystopian cyberpunk landscape, that this work was created to fit in that world, and that it's almost similar to like a steampunk, but instead of the steam, their artifacts were from 1997. So their retro tech is 1997 tech for the show.
It always makes me think of Tim and Eric Awesome Show.
Yes.
Like the same sort of absurdist satire on, on commercialism.
It was so deep, and the way that they do it, like those commercials, really speak to me, because it's like so cyberpunk in the way that it's like, okay, this is not a utopia future. Like, yeah, I can save my dreams, but I have to sell my life, my memories to a corporation, and I have to, all these little steps that happen within their cyberpunk dystopian future that they're presenting with the cyber slums. And it's like similar to like Johnny Mnemonic in a way, which is like, I don't know if you've seen that movie with
Johnny. Yeah.
with Keanu, but it's like very dark. It's a dark future, and but it's also like has this fun because they're using the Muppet kind of like personas to illustrate it.
Well,
I just watched Johnny Mnemonic like recently, like a week ago.
Yeah, me too.
Funny you bring that up. And he's like bragging in there. He's like, I have 80 gigabytes worth of memory in my brain right now.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when that was huge.
Like 80 gigs is like so massive.
God, I had a so I'm using all these flash drives, and I found an old one that I was trying to like put files on, and it kept saying it was out of space. And I looked at it; it had 512 megabytes on the flash drive.
Yeah, that's
like,
classic.
What am I gonna?
That sounds like a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Sure, that was like $40 like 20 years ago.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I've actually reached out to JNK of being a guest on the show. It was not very good timing for him, but I'm going to follow up because he's like, I think I can get him on, but that would be almost like a scoop like yours there.
Yeah.
I assume it was their first solo show, like in a contemporary art gallery. Like, do you know that? Did that come up at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly certain that was their first show ever.
I would think.
I'm fairly certain with that. In the way that they had just the class of putting all that together, and the just the mindset of like putting the installation and laying everything out and formatting everything the way they wanted to, it was really just a pleasure to see that, because you never know with artists. I've worked with so many artists trying to put shows together, and the amount of like respect they had for me and trying to like make sure that this is something that was viable, first of all, but also just in a class of its own, was just really awesome to see. Like, they are really serious about what they're doing, and it really does speak to the space, because not everyone needs to be a formally trained artist to be able to make art and to express themselves.
They really do take so much care in their product, and class is the word. I mean, they're just a really classy outfit, those guys. So, yeah, pretty exciting. And just one last thing actually on Kurt Hustle Collective, because we could spend the whole show. I love actually how we're discussing summer exhibitions, Kurt Hustle Collective, the last quarter of the show here, and I love it. And one thing I actually showed some of their work at this kind of show I did in January of just kind of featuring a lot of the work. Can't remember what I called it. And I tell you, the Kurt Hustle Collective commercials were like the fan favorites or like the crowd favorites by far. Like the accessibility of those things, and people just find them charming and hilarious, and the music is excellent. And of course, it's all handcrafted. Like they don't buy samples, of off of wherever. Like it's all done on their own. And same with all of the like glitch stuff. Like they're the real deal.
Definitely, they definitely are, and like it's like my brain. Like I'm more of a classically trained artist, and so like just I can't. My brain doesn't even like comprehend how they make that stuff. Like I couldn't do it at all. I have no idea how they're doing it, but it really is just a really beautiful thing that they're doing. It's great work. Like the commercials by far are my favorite, but there's so many little projects that they're putting under their umbrella that it is the KHC Corporation. Like they can, I don't know how they do it, but it's awesome. It really is.
I totally agree. As we're wrapping up here, Chi, so are there any, I mean, you're probably really busy with the gallery, but is there anything in Seattle is there a big show that you're excited to see? Or are you so sounds like things are going gangbusters at your gallery. Like, I mean, so is there a big show out there? And if you're not paying attention to that, then what is going on at your gallery? It sounds like it's actually taking off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're always really busy. We have, it's basically just me that's like curating and doing the admin, doing everything. But yeah, I think the biggest show that we're looking forward to, or at least I'm looking forward to, is the Seattle Art Fair. And that's just gonna be, it's basically, I don't know if you've been to like a Biennale or the Armory show in New York, or
I've been to Armory.
Armory, yeah. So it's similar to Armory, and it's going to be just a huge event. And I'm looking forward to the ease of hanging the next show because it's just all paintings. So that's extremely easy. And
yeah, I was going to say you're probably looking forward to that.
Oh
yeah,
God,
exactly.
I'm looking forward to that with a passion. And then I'm gonna go to the Seattle Art Fair, and I already got VIP tickets, so I'm just gonna go and peruse and drink some cocktails and just enjoy myself and try to, ease out of the digital kind of projection technical difficulties. Just get back to some really easy trad shows until early next year when we're gonna start our next NFT show in January.
Okay, awesome. And it sounds like you have a booth at the Seattle Art Fair. Is that correct?
We don't have a booth. We are doing a satellite event. Our gallery is maybe, I would say, 3 to 4 blocks from the actual event. So it's very close. And our building that we are working out of has about 2, maybe about 5 other galleries on the ground floor. And we're all planning to have satellite openings for that event, just to make it like a hub for people to come to. So
you might as well, and it's kind of the trend right now, anyway.
Yeah,
like to do these kind of satellite fairs. It's like around the big event and all this sort of.
I mean,
thing.
it costs a lot of money for a booth. I mean, we're talking like $5,000, and my space is totally artist run and artist funded. So it's me and one other person, and we basically pay for that space, and we don't have high budgets really, and we pay for everything out of pocket. So it's kind of one of those things where if we were to get like some kind of sponsorship to like put money down, that could be a loss. Like, then we wouldn't mind losing $5,000, but like that's typically probably about 75% of our rent for the year, or maybe
Yeah.
half the year. Maybe it's about half the year's worth of rent. So it's kind of like, not necessarily worth it for us, but it allows us, being an artist rental space allows us to do fun shows like the KHC show and NFT shows because we don't really need to worry about the funding. But hopefully that will change in the future. The more people we bring on and we do make sales. So we have the goals to be in the big show. But for right now, we're just kind of satelliting.
Well, I think it all is. I love the trajectory that your gallery is on. Like every time we check in with you. It seems like things are going, are keep on chugging along in a upward direction. So it's pretty exciting,
Yeah, I want
and
more stuff like that. I want to work with more artists and have more, digital shows for sure. Like I think the On Cyber Gallery, just the format of it, just really makes sense. And it's like for a regular artist, for a regular traditional artist to just like even take photos of their work and create an On Cyber Gallery is just a huge difference. Like that's what my takeaway was from it. Like I've had a few of these On Cyber Galleries, and the last NFT show that we had, like I was able to take photos of people's work, put it in a gallery, and then it's accessible to anybody in the world who has the technology to like interface, you know?
yeah.
That could work. Iridice. That might be a good option
Oh
for
yeah.
you with that
I
physical that you just
actually,
sold.
yeah, I have been really, really working hard on my own cyber galleries, and in fact, I was gonna say, my pinned tweet is what I consider my museum hub for all of the on cyber galleries that I've made. So for the weekly galleries that I've been putting together of Tezos collections, I have them all connected end to end with portals, so you can just walk through them and see each one. So, and then in my hub, it has portals to, whether I've made a solo exhibit, which I recently did for Ivan Hugo. You can go in there through a portal. I made a spring gallery one that specifically featured KHC, Hey Diroket, Sabato, who's here. Shout out to Sabato and Ivan Hugo. So yeah, I've been loving creating these spaces and sharing them out. It's been absolutely my favorite thing to do with this new hobby of collecting NFTs. So, I look forward to making my own. Also, that continues to bring ceramics into the space because my husband and I kind of want to see how far we can go with bringing that art form in. So, that being said, definitely check out the galleries that I have and the ones that I'll be continuing to do, hopefully on a weekly, if not bi-weekly basis. Thanks.
Well, keep us updated, Eurydice, and thank you for joining us on stage today. And thank you, everybody who is listening. And thank you, all the speakers here, Chimosku Jackson with the epic update on the Kurt Hustle Collective show, Kant, Dr. Version. Any final thoughts, anybody? Otherwise, I'll turn it to Runetoon for his final thoughts. Anybody, Runetoon? Any final thoughts on today's show?
Oh, every time Moscow Jackson comes on, I'm just reminded how bad I want to go visit his gallery. My sister lives in Seattle, so I make trips out there all the time.
Me too.
So one of these days, I'm going to hit you up in advance, and we will connect.
For sure, man. Pull up on me, and just want to say thank you too for hosting these events and really uh, stepping it up for the community. And it just is really, it provides content that I pretty much watch daily. So I really appreciate you keeping me on top of the game.
Well, likewise, and you're doing wonderful things over there, Chimosku Jackson, and it is truly a community effort over here. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks to everybody who's listening out there, and do not be shy, come up on stage anytime, and until next time, take care.